Hey guys, they'll have something unusual on the channel. We'll be looking at the new Snot Goblin Gaming terrain that they've sent to us for review. And Anna here is going to help me evaluate it because she sets up our tables even more often than I do. We're not exactly going to be reviewing this terrain though, because this is the unpainted version of actually what they will be offering on their Kickstarter campaign that is starting on November 5th. An important disclaimer, even though they've sent me the terrain, they have no input into what I'm going to say, and I'm going to give you my unadulterated opinion about this product, so stay tuned. So Anna is going to be a presenter for us today. Essentially, I'll give you a bit of context. So as you know from our battle reports, we have been using multiple types of terrain. The GW was the most popular one, and that one is, you have to paint yourself. And the pre-painted option, which is this Gamemat.eu, thank you Anna so much, which has another problem because it is, even though it's painted, it's just essentially a monocolored dry brush, and even those pieces in different colors, they are not as bright usually, and they don't look as nice. And I understand that's the limitation of the technical process they have, and there are even ways to make terrain like this look better, obviously by painting it yourself. And I did not do this, as you can see, because it's a lot of effort and I did not have the time. And that is precisely why I think the offer that the Snot Goblin Gaming guys have is, I think, very valuable. Right now on the screen you'll see a few images of how this terrain will actually look in the different versions that you can acquire from the Kickstarter campaign. They have several different types, easily adaptable for any kind of table. Also have a couple of samples, so here is a good example of how sort of demonic world paint scheme is going to look on this terrain. So imagine this on the terrain piece size of this huge 3-story ruin. Another example with this desert style of a paint job. And by now you're probably wondering, how the hell does this thing work? Is it a whole piece terrain? Probably not. Is it like GW sprues? No, actually you are being supplied with a bag of bits, essentially like Lego, so that you can combine into whatever shapes of ruins you can. So I didn't have an instruction manual here, and I just assembled them as I liked it. So here I made a huge 3-story ruin. So this is the form they are supplied in, and you'll get a lot of these different small bags of pieces that you then can combine into whatever shapes of ruins you want. So here's how you assemble these. So here we have a whole piece, and I'm now going to disassemble it into individual pieces so you know how it all works. So these are all the pieces that you need to assemble this small ruin that you just saw. It'll be perfect for something like a small ruin piece on a Orion axis GW layout that you can see right on your screen in the blue. And now I'm going to reassemble this thing so just you know how quickly it can be done. Whilst we're looking at this exhilarating montage of how I'm assembling the ruin, I wanted to say that another cool aspect is that the more you assemble these, the faster you become, which is, it's logical, but it's not really like that when you're assembling a ruin from a sprue, because there you're limited to removing mold lines, applying glue, you get glue on your hands, sometimes you get glue in the wrong part of the ruin which can melt it and so on. Here you don't have this problem, which is a plus, I think. Done. What else did you want to say about this terrain, Anna?
Well, the only drawback I've noticed is that these are pretty hard to assemble.
Because they're push fit, so...
Yeah, because you need to apply force to assemble them. And, I'm a girl. And...
Well, we've noticed that.
Yeah.
I think that people had their suspicions for a long time.
So I have pretty strong hands.
I agree with that,
yeah. I am. Yes, I know. But still, it's pretty hard to,
Yeah, I noticed that as well when I was assembling several of these pieces, and it takes effort to get them together.
It's actually good because they won't be falling apart.
Exactly, they don't fall apart when you have them in your hands, when you are moving them around the table. But again, it takes more force, obviously, to do this than to just take two elements and glue them together, because that's a totally different process. Another thing I noticed is that compared to GW terrain that you can paint yourself, this one is very resistant to scratches. Up there, obviously, it's just acrylic paint. Even if you want to varnish it, it will still come off if you apply enough pressure, and you cannot definitely put a knife to it like I did just here. And another bonus is that this terrain is very light. It's just plastic, and even if you drop it, it's very unlikely for it to break. And as you can see, I'm trying here very hard to break it, and it's light, so unlike some other manufacturers like the ones I mentioned before, I did drop those and they cracked into several pieces, big pieces, and I needed to glue them back together with super glue. Here it's very unlikely for it to actually break. Here's how a whole table of this terrain looks. Keep in mind though two things. First, it's unpainted or self-painted, as in the case of the ruins on the right, and it will not look like this. It will look much better, and in the design that you will choose there are several to choose from, and you've seen them in this video. And the second thing is just my interpretation of how these ruins can look. Mine and Spencer's, who provided us with these cool terrain pieces that he has self-painted, and they are, if I'm not mistaken, there's still option to buy the unpainted ones if you want to do something with them yourself. And thanks to Spencer, we have these available, and he's, by the way, running a cool narrative campaign every winter. Check out the links in the description. It's not an advertisement, I just know Spencer does very cool narrative campaigns, so if you are interested in that kind of thing, please go check it out. In any case, this is a whole table worth of terrain, and you can find it in a relatively small box, and you can store it very easily. If you have ever tried storing terrain, believe me, it's a hassle when it's assembled, and this at least partially solves this problem. Obviously, you're not going to get it smaller unless you disassemble it, but it will be very easy to store once you do. Doing competitive playing, it's really adaptable to the game. I found the walls are pretty thin, so they will not really impact the engagement range through the actual ruins. So whatever the rules you're using for non-chargeable ruins, chargeable ruins, it will work here. Also, it has this second floor, and it actually fits a proper 40 mil base, which is something I really hate about some of the pre-painted terrain, and actually multiple types of terrain that I've seen, is that a model like this nice looking jump back captain, which by the way you've not seen on the channel before. This guy is from the Flesh Terrors chapter. So models like this, it's sometimes very hard to fit them on the second floor of the ruins, and in this case it's very easy. And if you are looking from this side over here, the warglaive is pretty well hidden behind this ruin, so if you're playing through line of sight, again, it will work quite nicely. And there are also windows on the first floor. You can assemble them without windows on the first floor, so if you are playing in a tournament setting or just at home and you want the first floor no windows rule to be an actual no windows situation, you have that flexibility, unlike some of the other options out there which may not have that. Yep, if you're wondering if the space, headspace in the first floor is enough for high, tall models, yes. As you can see, the Thunderwolf Cavalry model fits fully under the first floor, and there is still space above it. So if you're on the market for pre-painted terrain, I highly recommend checking out the Kickstarter campaign, a link in the description. There, for $1 you can reserve a discounted price, and they'll notify you when the campaign is up, so you can actually pick up the terrain. And considering you can buy a whole table set worth of painted terrain from these guys for a price of about 3 GW ruins, I think it's a pretty good deal. Once the Kickstarter kicks off, I'm pretty sure we're gonna see this exact terrain on the table in our battle reports. Thank you for your attention, guys, and I'll see you next time.